Well, George, how are you today?
Hello, Brother John, Buffalo Brother John. How are you? I'm here, Omaha, and I'm moving to Florida, and it's just a few days before the truck comes,
Well,
and I'm going to beat the weather out of here. It's going to be over 100 degrees next week, or maybe even later this week. I'm not sure. It's going to be hot, hot, hot.
hot, hot, hot. Okay. Well,
We
it's
got to go to Florida where it's cooler.
oh, the irony. All right. Uh, how did you enjoy the first preseason game? Is in the book, right? First
Yeah,
preseason game is done. You have any thoughts?
I always got thoughts. I got lots of thoughts. My first overall thought of the
Yeah.
game was that we got some defensive front four power. We got a deep line, John, and they can get pressure on a quarterback. At least the Indianapolis Colts. Now, they might be the worst team in the league. I'm not sure. But but they did show us something on Saturday that they can rush the passer, they can get to the quarterback, they can get put pressure on, they can McDermott shows that the team can blitz. He can send safeties. He can send linebackers. The guys were very aggressive on defense, and I liked it.
Yeah, They were aggressive. They definitely brought some blitzes, didn't they?
Mhm.
Uh,
They were different than we've seen in the past, which was let's wait and see what happens and try and react to it. Instead, they were like, let's see if we can dictate the action. Makes a huge difference.
all right, all right. Any other thoughts?
Well, we have a player on our team, and his name is Kyle Allen. And, he might be the new cabbage head.
Oh, I
John,
can't.
that guy, that poor man, he made a couple of plays. Let's give him credit where it's due, but overall, he looked like a man running around with his hair on fire, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He looked,
It looked like to me that he was uncomfortable in the pocket. And, when Barkley came out and he stood in the pocket as things were collapsed, he stood there. He found he made his reads out to the receivers and he made the throw. But with Kyle Allen, before he even felt pressure, he was like, he had Jimmy legs.
yeah, yeah. I'm done.
He
Yeah,
had Jimmy legs, and he wanted to get rid of the ball before the defense got to him. And oh, brother, that is not what we need as our backup quarterback. So let's just say maybe it was nerves. We'll see how he does this next week. But last week he looked pitiful.
yeah. Okay, can't argue with logic like that. Uh okay. Any other thoughts? I do agree with you with Kyle Allen. I'm not sure he belongs after that performance. I'm not sure he belongs in the NFL.
The Buffalo Bills can run the football if they want to.
Okay,
They Latavius Murray looked like he had fresh legs, didn't he?
he did. Yeah, yeah. He looked fresh.
James Cook, he looked great.
He didn't
They
get a ton of plays, but he looked good in the plays he was there for. He was out.
Yeah, and so the Bills and their new offensive line, they opened holes, and the new kid Osiris Torrance,
Yeah, yeah,
he was getting into the second level, and he was looking for linebackers to smack, and he found a few. He
yeah,
made his initial block, and he was in the secondary smacking people.
yeah. Yeah, he looked good.
They look very good. Even look good on pass defense. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens. But with him standing next to Brown, Spencer Brown, they look pretty formidable in pushing guys around and making holes for the running backs.
Yeah, yeah. Now I know it's only preseason, but that
And it was the Colts.
and it was the Colts, and I'm not 100% sure exactly when. We watched the Bills broadcast, so I'm really not sure when Indianapolis started taking their starters out. I know they may have started with about several of them in the defensive front, but I think we saw a great deal of their second and third stringers playing.
Yeah.
And as we all know, how good your backups play against the other team's backups is not really an indication of how your season's going to go.
No, but if they don't play well, then you got a problem.
Yeah, we've certainly.
So, looking at it that way, there was nothing negative to say. And even better than nothing negative to say, there were plenty of good things to say. So again, it was against the Colts. So we'll see what happens this week. They're going to go up against a much better team with Pittsburgh, and we'll see.
Okay.
But I was very impressed in what I saw.
Okay. The only thing that I would really caution you on too much, I did just say it was preseason, but we saw McDermott use some blitz.
Yes.
And I think that that probably is an indication that he will be a more aggressive play caller than what we've seen Buffalo do in the last few years. But
he wasn't messing around.
The dominance of the defensive line, I think a lot of it came when we were most likely against backups. So we'll have to see what that really means. We'll have to see how that translates. But it was a nice start. It's always nice to see. I really don't care if they win or lose a preseason game. But it was nice to see that they weren't getting pushed around.
Not only that, the offensive line, they were rotating people in. So we did handle, you want to say, our backups. Those guys looked like we had a little bit of depth, and not just on the offensive line. We saw that in many areas on this Bills team. I think overall they look deeper than they have in the past.
Yeah, it's a little hard to tell for sure, but you did see some nice things. All right, you talked about defense. Eddie, do you want to talk about linebackers at all?
Sure. I'll talk about linebacker.
Okay, because that's one of the positions that we know for a fact. That's your starter is not here.
Yeah.
For it, we know that for a fact. We can guess all we want about how they feel about Dane Jackson, but we know that they don't have Edmonds anymore. So, how did you feel about the linebacker play? Milano got a couple of snaps, but didn't play a whole lot.
Right.
How did you feel?
Klein was in there.
Klein was in there.
Klein was in there. He did his job. The new kid, Dorian Williams, was in there.
Now, we both saw the breakdown that Cover One, I don't know his last, Eric from Cover One did, where he was showing video, and he was showing what really Dorian Williams. So how do you think about, we both saw that, and I wanted to make sure we shouted that out, because that was, if you haven't seen that, you got to go look at that. That was
yeah, that's a good shout out to Cover One. They don't know us, but we know them because we watch them. Right. I think they're one of the best out there, and I encourage anybody, after you watch us and click and subscribe, go watch Cover One, because they're professionals and they provide a lot of film
The film study.
and breakdown of that. So
Ah,
that's wonderful.
so what did you think about Dory? Well, specifically linebackers in general, but Dory Williams and Terrell Dotson specifically.
All right. So I thought Dorian Williams looked like a guy, and they made comments on the broadcast that the Bills really, especially the first preseason game, this is not something that they're planning. They didn't have planning meetings. They weren't watching film. They were sending their guys out there just like this was a high school game.
Okay.
You know, go and do your job. We've taught you where you're supposed to line up for different formations and such, and just go and do your job and let's do the basics, sound fundamentals, and react. And I think that's what he did. And I think we found that he's got speed, that he can react, because I think they attacked him. I think the Colts attacked that linebacker area, and I think that he was making a lot of plays. He was a leading tackler, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
But instead of planning and watching where guys are lining up and what he's thinking the play is going to be, he was just reacting. And so he would find himself, he'd overcome an opening, and he could chase down the runner, but he's tackling him, but he's 10 yards down the field.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Instead of knowing where he should line up and where he should attack, and so I thought that it showed that he had a lot of athleticism. I thought he had a lot of good speed, but he needs a lot of work, and maybe they'll get him prepared if they want him to play during the week as they are scheming for these teams week to week. And that's what he needed. So I thought he showed promise, but he also showed to me that he's just not quite there yet.
Okay.
Even though he was the leading tackler, he may have been the leading tackler, but instead of tackling the guy 10 yards down the field, tackle him after only 2 yards.
Right.
Because you gotta anticipate the play. And he was just reacting to the play.
Over the years, we've given Ed Oliver, the defensive tackle, a lot of credit for pursuit. But along those lines, there are a number of times that he's helping it make a tackle 10 yards downfield.
Yes.
Tackle. Now, it's great that he's getting up and moving like that, but it's not great that the play got past him.
Yeah, again, he's reacting to the play as it was happening instead of dictating to that offense, this is what you're going to be able to do, and this is what you're not going to be able to do against me.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the nose. He still has some learning to do, and on the tape, there was still a couple of times when it was clear there was hesitancy.
Mm-hmm.
Hesitancy.
And you got Terrell Bernard injured. I don't know how long he's going to be out. So that really, and they really don't seem to be showing any confidence in Balen Spector. So that leaves Tyrell Dotson.
Yeah, he's really kind of his name is going from LinkedIn right about now. Yeah.
Yeah, is a kid that they signed up a few years ago as an undrafted free agent.
Right.
And so your starting middle linebacker is going to be an undrafted free agent who's been a special teamer, who has a mean streak. And I watched a thing today. I just don't remember this, John, but back in like 2019, he was suspended for 6 games because he of domestic violence against his girlfriend. And during this week, he had his helmet. He was swinging his helmet around. He was mad at Josh Allen. I mean, I don't know who he's swinging the helmet at, but if he was swinging it at Josh Allen, you're going to hit your quarterback in the head. And people were calling for the team to drop him. Well, they can't drop him because that's the best they got right now. the fortunate part is we saw such depth and such power from the offensive line and the blitzes that they were able to do, that the linebackers really only had to clean things up. Yes, he was a leading tackler, but it's because the linebacker or the
Defensive line.
defensive line dictated the action. And so we were pretty fortunate in that, but I expect offenses to be attacking that linebacker position, that middle linebacker position, because they're not going to come after Milano.
All right.
And so I think that could be an issue.
Any other thoughts on defense? You want to go with offense?
I'll go anywhere you like. I'm fine with it.
How about we slide over to the offense?
Okay.
I didn't think that nobody in the defensive backs played poorly, but it was notable that White and Dane Jackson didn't get a lot of play.
Well, John, I think that the defensive line was so effective, and they put so much pressure on the quarterback, that it allowed the defensive backs to not have to cover that long.
Okay.
So they were pretty sticky to those receivers.
Yeah.
But, and before we walk away from the defense, oh my God, the penalties.
Now you're not going to talk about penalties.
Penalties. I mean, 3 interference calls, an offsides, lining up in the neutral zone. There's 5 penalties right there. So offsides, yes, they got to get their timing down. That's normal. Lining up in the neutral zone, that's just a dumb mistake that easily can be cleaned up. But 3 interference calls, that is unnerving.
Okay. And interference, and on those plays, if it wasn't called interference, it would have been called holding. I mean, they were very hands-on.
Yes.
So we covered the defense. How do you feel? How did the offense do, George? What did you think of the offense? I know you talked a little bit at your opening statement there, but what department of the offense would you like to talk about?
Well, I'm drinking French vanilla coffee tonight, and that offense was vanilla.
I'm drinking Great Value water. So, yeah, all right.
Oh, there you go, vanilla water.
No expense actually spent.
I thought overall that they did a pretty darn good job, but they were very vanilla. They weren't giving away anything to the rest of the league. Josh Allen didn't go in there.
No. No Diggs. No Justin.
Diggs didn't go in there. I don't believe Gabe was in there. If he was, it wasn't very much. We didn't see their new wide receiver Shorter go in there and do anything. We saw a couple passes to Shakir. One of them was an excellent catch, and then he had a kind of a sloppy drop.
Third down drop. Yeah.
So they're very, very vanilla, and Kyle Allen was just god awful.
Yeah.
So, but the offensive line, I thought, really gave good protection and was able to open holes. And to me, that was the whole secret. And then now if you would have taken Kyle Allen out and you had Josh Allen in there and other wide receivers out there, he could have made some great plays against them. That's my feeling. I thought the offensive line held up extremely well. And you only saw one throw to a tight end, and that was their number 3 tight end, Morris.
Right.
So they did bring in Knox and Kincaid. So they had 12 personnel out there, but it was a run play. So you saw some good scheming on the run blocking.
Nice.
But they didn't unleash, which is great. but they didn't unleash any weapons.
No.
And then when they brought in Barkley, you know, he was able to steadily move that. He was very comfortable in the pocket and very aware of the offense, and whatever players he had on his side, whatever players he was going against on the other side, he carved them up.
Yeah,
he looked absolutely fantastic.
He was working with second, third stringers against second and third stringers, but it looked highly competent. Very, very competent.
And one of the good things that we saw was on the receiving corps when they were second, third, fourth stringers, whatever you want to call, guys like Isabella, guys like Shavers, they made some great plays.
Yeah, yeah.
And it showed me that our wide receiver room has depth. And in the past, our wide receivers, you know, if Diggs went out or Gabe was injured, no matter who else we put out there, they were not going to be a threat. We had touchdown Jesus.
Yeah.
He really didn't do anything. Isaiah McKenzie, he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Crowder, he was injured. He didn't do anything. But right now it looks like we got a lot of guys with a lot of speed that can catch a ball and they can run after the catch. Yes, maybe they were going against other third stringers. That's true. But I think that they showed that they were much better third stringers than we had in the past.
Okay.
And that our whole overall wide receiver room is elevated.
Well, I think we're to some degree we're making an assumption because Andy Isabella looked good out there.
Yeah.
He actually had a couple of plays. He was impressive. We feel like we have some handle on Shakir, but there's an automatic expectation that he's going to be a little better. Right. And then we didn't really get to see Sherwood much. We didn't get to see Hardy much. But the thought is that with them in the room, it's a very talented room now.
That's exactly it. Yes, Diggs is still up here.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, you know, in the past, and still maybe between Diggs and the next guy, there may be still a great
gap.
But from Diggs to the bottom guy, it's a lot closer than it used to be. So your bottom tier seem much more talented. And, you know, as the season progresses and you need to use some of these guys, maybe you got a lot more confidence than having touchdown Jesus out there.
Yeah.
And I'm calling him that because that was his nickname, but I can't remember his name anymore.
Yeah, there's been some other. Who was that fellow they brought down from Canada?
Oh yeah, Williams.
Yeah, another fellow we had high hopes for, and he was
Duke Williams or Duke Johnson or Duke somebody or other.
Yeah. So I think you may be right there.
Yeah, because if you look at it this year, and we didn't see it in the game because they didn't bring these guys out, but Davis is looking much better and feeling much better this year, and it's a contract year, and that usually gives positive results. You got Diggs, you got Davis, and you've got Sherfield that they picked up from Miami, and you've got Shorter. We don't know what he's going to do, but they picked him up. You've got these kids, Isabella, and you've got help me out here. You've got two tight ends that we didn't see really them use at all yet.
Right.
And you've got some guys that can catch out of the backfield. Latavius Murray can catch. Yep. James Cook can catch. Damian Harris can catch. You got Hardy, another receiver. I mean, you got a lot of weapons. And it reminds me, forgive me for saying this, but it reminds me of Kansas City last year they lost Tyreek Hill and they went all the way and won the Super Bowl. And you're watching guys making plays and you go, who is that guy?
Yeah.
Who is that guy?
Right.
And these guys would come in and make 2 great catches. Another guy would come in and make a great run play. Another guy would come in and make 3 great catches. And you're like, where do they have all this talent?
Yeah.
We don't even know these people, and they won the Super Bowl. And that doesn't mean the Bills are the Super Bowl winners or anything like that yet. But what I'm saying is they've got talent on that wide receiver room and in the tight end room and in the running back room.
Yes, yes. I will say that we've talked about, not necessarily online, but we have talked about why is it that every time Kansas City gets a player, find a way to utilize them and that player's skills as part of their offense. And
right.
They're saying, how'd they get another one? And when we get a guy, we use him on special teams.
Yeah, we had Isaiah Hodgins. We lost him to the Giants, and then he started making plays over there.
Our offense is too complicated. We get a guy in, and he's not able to help. So Kansas City also has the benefit of different offensive coaches. And we'll see if our coaching staff has closed the gap a little.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I think with a much improved offensive line, a great quarterback, a lot of depth in weapons. But you're right. We got to see that they use them.
Got to see how they use
it. If it's Josh only throwing downfield to Diggs time after time after time, then nothing's going to change. Yeah. So we got to see that now that they have all these weapons, do they figure out how to make it a diverse attack and keep the defense on its heels and attack them with all these different weapons and just keeping the pressure up and keeping the ball. So we'll see if they do it.
Yeah, that's it. That's absolutely right. I'm with you there. The past 2 years, for sure, I've been a little critical of Brandon Beane. And I felt that the number of misses that he's had in the first 3 rounds, year, has caused an issue with the quality of the backups. And then I thought last year, particularly, we started seeing some issues with the quality of the starters. And that they were offensive lineup is a great one. They're depending on undrafted free agents and overaged veterans. And when those guys struggled, the whole offense struggled.
Yeah.
So, and then I assume similarly to wide receivers, they're going to dress 5 wide receivers a game. And if you want to go 5 wideouts, well, they may dress 6 wide receivers because they have a special teamer. But if you want to go 5 wideouts, as soon as they have an injury, they couldn't do it anymore. They could only go 4 because they felt that even if they had another wideout dressed, he's a special teamer that doesn't know the offense and couldn't bring him. And I was a little critical of the depth of the wide receiver room.
Yeah, I think your point is well taken. And this year, not only do they have better depth, in other words, their bottom tier of receivers are much more talented than they have been in the past, but they also added an outstanding tight end.
Well, hopefully, we certainly hope so. But
yes, right,
yeah,
which should be could be a dominant force and complement those wide receivers.
Yeah, I think he could be impactful this year and more impactful as the years go by.
Yeah, one thing we did see in this preseason game, we saw the offense run some screenplays, and they were successful. And in the past, how many times have you and I talked about screenplays, and we're always giving up big yardage against screenplays. but we're taking losses when we try our own screenplays. And I think they've got the talent now that they can do it. Some of these, you do a wide receiver screen, you don't have to do it with Diggs. You've got people with speed that can come in and do that sort of thing.
Yeah, you're right. We saw Diggs run him, we saw McKenzie run him the last few years. But one of the interesting, you talked about screen game, and we did see some. It'll be very interesting to see. Mr. Osiris is not known as a nimble kind of tall, get out in front kind of guard, and that. But Mitch Morris still is, Bates is, O'Connor. So it'll be interesting to see exactly who they pull out to get in front of those screenplays.
Well, I'll tell you what, is when you talk about Osiris Torrance, I think you're absolutely right. That is what we heard about him from college, is he was kind of like an elephant plodding down the field. But he came into camp, he's trimmer, so he's lighter weight. He's still 325 pounds.
Yeah.
But
he's a slim 325.
Slim 325 pounds. But he looked quick. He looked active. He looked aggressive. He was able to easily get into that secondary, not a secondary, but into the linebackers and make blocks. And that was, even the guys broadcasting this were surprised how good he looked at that.
All right. Well,
so that's positive.
So it was our first preseason game. Mm-hmm. Do you want to give a grade?
I do. I actually did work up a grade.
Okay, we're on the same page.
My grade for this game was a C+.
Oh.
Now, you might think that's a low grade.
I was exactly thinking that was a low grade.
But on the offensive side of the ball, Kyle Allen looked horrible.
Oh, that is true.
Absolutely inept.
Okay.
I mean, I can't say it anymore other than hearing the loudspeaker. Kyle Allen, please report to the lobby. Your luggage is ready. Ready for the bus.
Kyle, no need to stop in the locker room. Just keep going.
We'll send you your check. He looked horrible, John. The offense that they put out there was very, very vanilla. So we really didn't see anything.
Yeah, he's better at the more complicated plays.
Yeah, and so we saw them start in the first quarter running the ball, and they were successful. Then we never saw it again.
Yeah. Oh,
it totally went away.
That's what they do. Yeah.
On the defensive side of the ball, they were easily able to stop the run until Poona Ford went out, and when you had just Ed Oliver and you had Tim Settle in there as the interior defensive line.
Yeah, there were some issues.
So, it makes you wonder about the rotation on the defensive line. How are they going to do it? But we didn't see Jordan Phillips in there. We saw Shaq Lawson getting out of position. He was supposed to shut down the run in one play, but he crashed on the inside, and the running back was able to bounce around and go all the way around him. We saw Gregory Rousseau easily get into the backfield and should have been able to drop the running back for a good 5-yard loss, but he missed a tackle. So, I mean, I think we saw good things, but I think we had 7 penalties. So we got a lot to clean up. So C being average, I think they were a little better than average. So that's how I graded them a C+.
Did you say plus? I thought you said minus.
Okay. No, C+.
All right. Well, I like all your reasoning there. I just came out with like a B. I didn't even think about a B minus is probably where they were at. But but for all the reasons you said, and for
Mhm.
things that I liked, all the same reasons that you said. It was I was encouraged by a number of things, but you can all like some of my grade is projecting where I think the starters are going to be based upon
Yeah.
what the backups look, right? And so we won't know till we know. That is true.
Yeah, so that's why I graded it on what I saw, not on what I think I'm going to see in the future.
Right. All right. We got a minute or two left. Anything else you want to cover?
Well, you want to talk at all about the next game coming up, Pittsburgh, what you expect? You
Uh,
want to save that for another one?
well, we haven't really been doing pre-game training camp games or preseason games. I do think we might. I wonder if we'll see Josh Allen.
Well, there's talk that he's going to be in this game at some point.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
And but I guess what I'm saying is that we should be looking for cleaning up of the penalties.
Okay.
We're gonna want to see, we're gonna go against, especially in the first quarter, we're gonna go against Kenny Pickett, and he's gonna have Pickens, his wide receiver,
Oh,
and
holding.
let's see if they start holding him. You know what I mean? That's gonna tell something.
Yeah.
It's a much better team. They got a much better defensive line than we just faced in Indianapolis. So can we still move the ball?
Yeah. Can we still run? Right.
Is Kyle Allen going to get any more comfortable in the pocket? These are things we got to find out. Do we have a problem at backup quarterback? And are they going to continue to attack the linebacker position? How are we going to react to that? So,
Right. Okay. All of those make a lot of sense.
mhm.
The game is away. I believe it's in Pittsburgh, so that all of those are good. I would also add, I would like to see, if Josh Allen is out there, do we see Andy Isabella specifically out there catching from Allen? Josh Allen.
Yeah, really, what is he going to do there? Is he going to make 2 or 3 passes and just hand off the ball a lot? I hope that's all he does, because I don't want to see him get injured. I want to see him make a few short passes, and just to get the feel he's in the game again. He's got a rush coming at him, but I don't want to see him running around in the backfield trying to find digs down the field. So let's make sure he doesn't do a cabbage head.
Okay. All right. Yeah. You don't know if it's going to be one series, 3. It could be a whole quarter. You don't know.
Right.
That's true. I was the only thing that I think we really didn't touch was based on the fact that he didn't get a lot of snaps. I really think Dane Jackson is locked in at the number 2 cornerback spot.
Well,
Yeah,
based on what we saw on interference penalties, he's got a good shot. All right, we got less than a minute, or we're going to be shut down.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Go Bills!
Yeah, thank you. Go Bills! Watch the game this weekend. Go Bills!